I'll leave it up to okay. I'm going to ask you.
Want me to run it for you?
Yeah, you'll have to because I can't.
It's a distinct honor, Your Honor, to operate equipment for a distinguished lawyer like Mr. Douglas.
I'll tell you, having you as an assistant gives me some pause.
You certainly increased your stature immeasurably. So
All right, let's save a little time. Ms. King, you're familiar with the fact that Nassau County has filed a stipulated statement of pertinent facts in this case.
That's
Mr. Mullen went over that with you, didn't he?
Yes, sir.
And that's presented to the court as facts, as bare bones facts of what happened in this case, correct?
Your Honor, I don't think the witness ought to be asked to characterize a legal stipulation.
Well, we're going to ask some questions.
Well, just ask her if did her attorney consult her and furnish her a copy of this stipulation before it was signed by counsel.
That's correct, isn't it, Ms. King?
Did you hear me, Ms. King?
I'm not sure that I understand.
Did your attorney go over and show you this stipulation of facts prior to the time that he signed this stipulation?
If you're talking about what I think you are, yes.
Let me show you. This
Okay.
This is called stipulation of facts.
Yes.
All right.
Thank you.
All
I'm
right.
sorry.
Overrule the objection.
And some of the things, most of the things that you're talking about are covered in that stipulation, are they not?
Yes.
For example, as I understand the factual events as they occurred that we're discussing, on November the 7th, 2000, Election Day, that night you got the vote, which you've testified to.
Yes.
And that was an unofficial return. At least at that time.
At that time,
and
yes.
And then you were required, as you understand it, to do an automatic recount because of the closeness of the race statewide.
That's correct.
And on November the 8th, that automatic recount was done.
Yes.
And that amount of votes that was determined by the automatic recount was then certified to the Secretary of State or to the canvassing commission as the correct vote from Nassau County. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And then after how many, let's see, you got this letter, which was not you didn't have a protest, did you? Statutory protest.
No,
you didn't
sir.
have a statutory contest until we filed it, right?
That's correct.
And the letter that you got from Mr. Wood, who was the Republican person, was mailed on the 22nd of November. I presume you got it on the 23rd?
It was handed to me across the counter in my office.
On the 22nd. And the meeting that you called was the 24th?
Yes, sir.
And the 23rd was Thanksgiving.
Yes, sir.
So you got that letter hand-delivered in the morning, and then you proceeded to give notice of a meeting on what time? Friday after Thanksgiving. Remember what time of day it was?
When did I start on Thanksgiving Day?
No, I don't want to ask you what you did on Thanksgiving Day. What I want to ask you is, what was the date, time of the meeting on the 24th that was noticed?
The meeting was held at 8:30 in the morning, the day after Thanksgiving.
And the notice was given on the day before Thanksgiving. Is that right?
There was more than 24 hours from the time that I posted the notice, and I also contacted the news media. And when the paper came out the morning of Thanksgiving, there was 24 hours until the time of our meeting.
Was the paper published on Thanksgiving morning in Nassau County?
Yes, sir.
The News Leader?
Not the News Leader, no.
Which paper?
The Jacksonville Times-Union.
And the notice that's attached to the stipulation says the notice was given to the, it doesn't say it was given to the Times-Union.
We also gave it to the News Leader. It was in, I know it was in the Jacksonville Times-Union.
And the Times-Union, of course, is the Florida Times-Union is published as Jacksonville paper. It's published in Duval County. That's
correct. And it's delivered to the front door of almost every citizen in Nassau County.
Well, you can get it here if you live in town.
Right.
So we have those dates straight. there was never a protest and never a contest until after what you call the certification, the last certification, which was sent to the Secretary of State's office or to the canvassing board, which would have been on the 26th. Is that right? Sunday?
No, it was. It wasn't sent out on a Sunday. The
I'm talking
certification.
About, we're wrong. Maybe I've confused you. You had one certification. That's all you ever had at that point, before we get to Thanksgiving now. You had one certification, official certification, that you sent to the canvassing board, and it was reported as the vote in Nassau County. That was after the machine recount on the 8th.
I sent a certification to the Division of Elections
Okay.
on the morning of the 8th after it had been faxed to the Division of Elections.
Okay. You sent a certification, didn't you, in accordance with the law?
Yes, sir.
To them on the 8th that certified the vote that had resulted from the automatic recount. Is that right?
On the 8th, about 8:30 at night, we faxed to the Division of Elections the automatic recount.
Okay.
The next morning, it was also overnight to Tallahassee and should be there by 10:30.
On the 9th.
Yes.
And that was the certification required by law and the statute, which you made.
That's correct.
And then that was the vote officially until you had this meeting November the 24th. Is that correct?
It was the wrong count for Nassau
No.
County.
That's not my question. There was no recount, no other recount than the machine recount that was required by law. Isn't that correct?
A recount that's required by law that was done on the 8th.
That's the only recount that's ever been done.
That's correct.
And so when the time for certification of the absentee ballots came, the set time for that.
The overseas 10-day ballots.
Correct. You didn't certify that then either, did you, on that date? That was a week after the certification you sent in the first instance.
The certification of the absentee ballots overseas were certified immediately.
Right, one vote. Is that right?
We had 8 overseas ballots in Nassau County.
Okay. And you certified how many on the required date for certification of the overseas ballots?
There was 7 that was actually counted, accepted. There was 1 that was rejected because of the postage.
Now, when you still are going along with the vote, even after you reported these 7 in the same ratio as they were in what you had certified on the 9th, is that right?
I'm not real sure, because as soon as I realized that I wasn't going to get an automatic recount, I immediately notified the Division of Elections that I had a correct and an incorrect tabulation.
Do you remember when you called them?
No, sir, I really don't.
Was it around the 20th?
I do not know.
You have no idea?
No, sir, I don't.
How long before the meeting, the last meeting?
I have I have been constantly trying to get this mistake that I have made straightened out ever since the morning of the 9th. And I have done many things, calling the Secretary of the State, everyone I could think of, to correct this.
And nobody told you that you needed to have a recount or you had a protest or any of those things so
Absolutely,
you could do that?
no one.
No one? Not anybody, the Secretary of State or anybody?
No one.
So you're going along there sort of, kind of feel sorry for you. You're relying on those
I was
people.
asking for guidance,
Correct.
and I did not receive it.
And when you finally did get the guidance, and you went ahead to set this meeting very quickly. It was down toward the time
I
it
had to
be
have
set.
a 24-hour notice.
Right, but it was, I mean, the decision and everything to do it was very quickly because just 24 hours over Thanksgiving.
We were running out of time for the certification.
Correct. Actually, there was no count or anything, but when you held that meeting, and we'll get to those circumstances in a moment, when you did hold that meeting, as I understand it, Mr. Wood, was it, who was not there?
That's correct.
Howard, excuse me.
Howard, Mr. Howard was
Mr.
not
Howard.
there.
We're going to get our names right one of these days. Mr. Howard was not there, and he was out of town, so then the county commission appointed